had a live show dedicated to the rumors, reports that were flying around today regarding the Cowboys linebacker situation. Just wanted to see where this specific community of Cowboys fans was at with regards to Azeez Al-Shaair from the Houston Texans and Jordyn Brooks from the Miami Dolphins. Give it a couple minutes here, a couple seconds or minutes for people to start to trickle in. Honestly, I wasn't sure if doing a live show on a Friday night was something that was a good idea because I haven't really done that before. I realize most people got stuff going on. They're trying to enjoy themselves, enjoy the weekend, traveling, relaxing, thinking about anything other than what they otherwise might be thinking about on a daily basis, right? Trying to do it. Brooks and R. Mason to the moon. What's up, Mo? So, okay. So real quick, I think my disconnect, and I'll lead with this, is that I'm seeing a lot of people pushing back when I initially hypothesized over the third round draft pick this year, so pick 92 overall, and potentially it was just an initial reaction hypothesis, right, with regards to the compensation for Jordyn Brooks, all-pro 29-year-old linebacker of the Miami Dolphins. What was my initial hypothesis as far as compensation to acquire his services was a third-round draft pick this year's 92nd overall, which is the pick that the Cowboys received in exchange for Osa Odigizua, as well as next year's second-round draft pick. Just floated that out there, right? What's up, Salam? I saw your message earlier today, too, and I appreciate that, man. Happy to see that you're in here tonight. I'm sure you're actually probably working, unlike most people right now. I know you got the late shift, so I hope it's been good to you so far, my friend. With regards to, I got some March Madness going on back here behind me, so if you guys see me get distracted for a second, then you'll know it's for pretty good reason. Trying to keep tabs on it as best as I possibly can. Let me know who you guys actually have winning it, by the way, while we're on that topic. I've got Iowa State, though admittedly, obviously, you guys understand that most of my free time that doesn't exist relative to most is spent doing this, right? So I'm out of touch with my college basketball news and notes, but usually the last couple of weeks prior to the tournament kicking off, I'll do my research and I can get a pretty decent feel for where most teams are at, or at least, the top 6 seeds that have a shot. And I'll get a decent feel for the bracket, but that's neither here nor there. So I want to start this whole conversation off with the issues that I have with the current narrative around the compensation for, let's just narrow it down to the Miami Dolphins, because we did conclude initially, we confirmed it earlier with the project that we posted, and now we're going to do it again. We're going to triple down on the take that it's more likely, just logistically speaking, realistically speaking, for the Dolphins to trade their all-pro linebacker to the Cowboys versus the Texans trading their Pro Bowl linebacker to the Cowboys. So let's just focus it on Jordyn Brooks and let's keep it right there, okay? My initial hypothesis, which was 92 overall in the second round draft pick, which is to be determined as far as what pick overall that is, obviously, for 2027, in exchange for Jordyn Brooks. I saw a pushback to the point to where it was almost like I was lobbying and defending the player versus just finding reasons to suggest why it matters for the Cowboys to do it no matter what. I guess those two things are kind of synonymous, but I just want to make sure we're clear, right? I understand it's the linebacker position, but A, how desperate the Cowboys are, for one thing. All right. And then B, just how truly different all pros are relative to the rest of the league. There's so few of them, right? They're so hard to come by. And if you do have the chance to purchase one from outside of your own organization, they don't come cheap. They're all pros for a reason. And teams aren't just quick to let go of them, regardless of what their contract says and regardless of where their current trajectory as an organization is headed. That's why the Raiders still haven't officially dealt Max Crosby yet. It's a very similar discussion. And both players, as a matter of fact, are within a few months of each other, but they're each all pros. So my point was, people were absolute. Like all the negative comments that I had were in response to, or with that was their stance. It was absolution. Okay, if the compensation to acquire Jordyn Brooks is anything above, more than this year's 92, it was a no, a hard no, an absolute no. Like next year's 2 out of the equation. No way, not possible. There's no way that you could convince me that, like, one guy even said he'd rather have Kenneth Murray back this year than to spend next year's second round draft pick on Jordyn Brooks. Couple points to push back on that, right? Very, very logical points, if I may just propose those to you and try to just respectfully walk through it yet again. First of all, how can anybody all in favor of, and most of the nation was, 1 first round draft pick 12 overall this year, next year's 2, and a player, conceivably Osa Odikisua at the time, though not confirmed, highly speculated, and for good reason. For Max Crosby, a 28-year-old All-Pro. But for Jordyn Brooks, a 29-year-old All-Pro at the linebacker position, just 1 measly second-round draft pick in the future, mind you, is an absolute no. Positional value? Okay. But even so, the disparity between that is not so to the point to where 12 and 2, next year's 2, and a player, a proven one at that, a $20 million player at that, for Max is an auto yes. And just next year's 2 alone for Jordyn Brooks is an auto no. The positional value, the discrepancy there, is not nearly what that compensation that you are agreeing with and disagreeing with in that, in that order. It's not what you are suggesting. Those 2 things cannot be true. So that was my first, and I'll be happy to elaborate on that, depending on. And I see Joseph is in here as well, alongside Azteca Aguiar. He says we desperately need trade for that one veteran linebacker before the draft. So that's exactly what we were talking. I thought when I originally read it, I thought my brain processed it as you saying that we need to trade back, and so I was about to tease that for a future conversation here and momentarily. But sounds like you agree. So that's the one thing we know, right? Let's start there. Let's just press pause for just a second. One thing we know for certain, because it is complete malpractice and ineptitude if they don't. I guess that's not a given at this point, but we certainly hope and we absolutely expect the linebacker position will be addressed before the draft, as will presumably the edge position as well. Not as much of a dire situation, but still one that you would like to add a true pass rush prototype to before the draft gets here. All right. So that's one thing we know for sure. Let's just leave it at the linebacker position because that's kind of the basis of the foundation of the discussion today. We know for a fact the current linebacker depth chart is not going to be what it looks like before the Cowboys are on the clock at pick 12. Now, who is added to that room before then? Obviously, that still remains to be determined. But for this discussion here, so let me just poll the 24 people that are in here as of right now. It's not crazy to suggest that if we're all in on the Max Crosby compensation, let's just say a 1, a 2, and a player is an auto yes for an all-pro edge versus next year's 2. Like, if that is included in any way, shape, or form, then Jordyn Brooks is a no. Am I crazy to say that those two things cannot coexist? Yes, Snoop Dogg, I am. I don't know that a trade will happen, but clearly they've proven to us time and time again, 5 times last year, and more this year, and more to come, allegedly, we think, based on Todd Archer and Nick Harris's reporting this morning or this afternoon. But also just logic. Because it's a 4th round, Shamar James entering year 2. It's DeMarvion Overshown, who has 2 career-threatening injuries in his young 4-year career so far. And then it's a bunch of just even bigger question marks after that, right? Or like, yes, they have to. There's no alternative. You cannot enter the draft with this gaping of a hole. It puts you in situations where you do things like take Tristan Hill with your first overall pick of that particular draft, which was a 2nd-round draft choice, of course. But you make mistakes when you draft out of desperation, out of desperate need. It doesn't work. So they absolutely have to. Yes, Max Crosby is still in the mix. There's no question. And I touched on that earlier today as well. It's in this afternoon's project that was posted. But the logic there is the Cowboys they all but had the deal done. They were the leader for the majority of that like week-long stretch of hype. Clearly firmly in the mix. Their offer was highly competitive, narrowly edged out by the 2 first-round draft picks that the Baltimore Ravens initially offered before it was fabricated and canceled, rescinded by Eric DaCosta. Why all of a sudden 4 days later are both sides just they're just out? It's done. It's over with. That doesn't make any sense to me. So I just want to know. Let me just pull up. Maybe it's more helpful to just show you guys what I'm talking about here, and you can kind of read it and use your own judgment and maybe just help me make sense of it. But I'm trying to understand how those two conversations can exist as far as the compensation for one 28-year-old, soon to be 29-year-old All-Pro by the time the season begins, and then another 29-year-old All-Pro currently at a different position. Why is the like my guess is it's just that Jordyn Brooks isn't as much of a household name as Max Crosby. People don't know who he is and how dominant of a player he is. This dude led the league in tackles last year, guys. He's an All-Pro. Those do not grow on trees. But even if they did, even if they were easier to come by on the trade market or in free agency, why are we pretending like we know what next year's 2nd overall draft pick is going to amount to? Why are we even pretending like we know for a fact that they're going to contribute? We don't. This right here, I think, kind of best helps me explain to you guys, or like try to reiterate and make it more palatable for my thought process on this. Like what people say is, and I'm okay. I can handle the pushback. That's fine. I actually like that. Some of my best moments are when I stand alone or on an island of three people, like for instance, last year's draft, like the pre-draft process with the offensive line being firmly in play situation, right? I'm cool. My process stays the same. Nothing changes, you know? And I love hearing, and I'm okay being wrong too, right? Obviously, I'm wrong all the time. I think that's when we learn. If you can take a deep breath, humble yourself for a second, and listen to somebody else's perspective and try to see where they're coming from, everybody wins. And it's a more entertaining conversation. So that's why we're doing this. It's just an exercise, like a thought provoking, get outside the box type of exercise here for our community. And of course, I wanted to know where you guys are at too. But let me just find this tweet real quick, and then I'm gonna shut up and just let the previous recording do the talking, and then we'll reconvene and see where we're at from there. Let me see. Yeah, this right here. All right, take a listen to this clip, and then you guys just tell me what you think. The synopsis is value is subjective. Okay. The part that third round pick comes in, and that's relevant because now I'm of the opinion that pick 92 in exchange for OSA services would be enough to garner at least one, maybe both of these guys. Okay. The compensation is the tricky part of this. It's the part that I feel like I have a decent handle on as far as value is concerned, but it's usually the most unpredictable part, right? There's really no basis for what a team feels like, for how close a team feels that they are to winning, how close that player is to being that final piece for the team that feels that they're close to winning. So it's like, if the closer you are to feeling like you need that final piece, the more likely you're willing to just part ways with whatever it takes to acquire it, right? So it's kind of it's a bit subjective, and so just walk with me here. Don't to feeling like you need that final piece, the more likely you're willing to just part ways with whatever it takes to acquire it, right? So it's kind of it's a bit subjective, and so just walk with me here. Don't yell at me if you think that I'm crazy for what I'm suggesting, but this is where I just want to just read you a couple. It's subjective, right? Because we don't know how the Cowboys feel about their personnel that they currently have on the roster, right? Like, so okay, let me just say it a different way. Let's start over. Christian Parker and company clearly feel different about the Cowboys' defensive personnel than most fans did, most media did, right? We know his thoughts on Savone Revel Jr. That's not a popular player to be high on right now, but I am. I was before I heard what Christian Parker had to say, and now I still am. Oso Digizua, $20 million a year guy, just re-extended last year. Now he's gone. It's a Cowboys dude. Their day two draft pick, they developed and signed to a contract extension, his second contract, right? Out the door. Sam Williams, most people, myself included, wrote him off. Auto cut. See you later. He's back. 1 year, a couple $1 million. Prove it type deal. Lee Cooker's back. Sean Gary. Most Cowboys fans weren't necessarily in love with that idea initially. But Christian Parker certainly has high hopes for a guy like him with his particular skill set, which is being a sound and disciplined run stopper first and foremost. Not unlike a couple other gentlemen that he's going to be playing right alongside of. And so Christian Parker's got this these ideas, this vision for how his system's going to work with his particular set of defensive talent. But I think it's fair to say that the way that they currently feel about their personnel is probably a little bit different than the way we do. But regardless of that, whatever that gap is, that margin between both sides, from just as far as perception goes, it's it's obvious that there's no set criteria for determining how truly close or far away a team actually is. It's just about their perception. So if Christian Parker feels as if, and he's clearly got a very small margin of talent that he's looking for, and it's the type of talent to where, yes, you want the physical tools and you want the production on the field, but more than that, even you want the ability to process things and just like high IQ guys. Not unlike CJ Allen, by the way. That's another popular discussion right now, and I see it in the chat over here. We may have to touch on that here in a minute. But if Christian Parker truly feels that the Cowboys are one all-pro linebacker away, then who is anybody to suggest that a second-round pick is too much? Now, I realize that's how crazy that sounds, right? I'm just trying to give you an analogy to understand the difference between an all-pro proven product, a commodity that we know is amongst the elites, versus an unproven prospect project that, oh, and by the way, is not even going to be in the picture until at the very earliest next year. In the case of this 2027 future second round draft pick that people are so unwilling to let go of for another all pro linebacker, even though they were all about it, get it out of here. We don't care. We don't need it for Max Crosby. Where is the discrepancy? What am I missing? How can those two things how can they coexist? They can't. Unless we just simply don't know who Jordyn Brooks is. Quick restroom break and then we'll reset. Was just a couple seconds off. Need to pinch it off better next time. That's a good point right there, Mo. Yeah, I agree. Recent history of second round picks is more than enough reason for us to go get a proven all pro. Exactly. We just truly don't know, right? And this staff, they do prioritize the right things. They're looking for the person behind the player, as Shadi told us as we began unpacking on here 11 months ago. We've heard Christian Parker say the same exact types of things over and over again since he's been hired as the defensive coordinator. Will McClay has even changed his tune a little bit. Stephen Jones as well. We actually did a 2022 versus 2025, or I guess it was 2026, a 4-year comparison. Just the way that Stephen Jones used to speak about the salary cap versus how he talks now, and it's the same thing with that discussion about guys that truly love football. It's not about like Will McClay's traits thing, always referencing arm length and stuff like that, right? It's not that anymore. It's how much does the guy love football, and that's what those are the things that the staff talks about. Everybody, there's a tone change, and it's an important one, right? But even still, players can fake it really well. You can put on a front. You can talk a big game in the meeting rooms. You can be sharp. You can have good IQ. You can have great instincts on the field. Be an instinctual, a smart, savvy football player. But if you don't love it, it don't matter. So you've got to have those in between the ears traits, the intangibles that we can't accurately measure, but then also you have to truly love the game. And that combination of player is rare. And that's why the target, the sights are so narrow. But they're not willing to necessarily overspend for all the players or the positions that we felt like they absolutely had to at the top of the market in free agency. We predicted that here. That's another example of me being wrong and me being glad to admit it. But I'm also happy to announce to you that the synopsis, the underlining, I guess, determination of offseason aggression was correct. It's just in a little slightly different way. They prefer the negotiation of me versus one other team versus me versus 31 others, where the price gets bid through the roof, where you're paying premium prices for less than premium talent. They prefer to have the leverage. It just is what it is. But even still, aggressive in the trade market can be the right buttons to press, especially when we know that they clearly, or at least seemingly, have the compensation now to afford it. So here's the way that we also have to look at it, right? Pick 92 overall was the compensation that most people were okay with, parting ways with, for the services of Jordyn Brooks. I'll run through the salary and all those types of things, right? The salary cap impact and stuff like that here in just a moment. Let me write that down so I don't forget. I just want to keep my first round picks, but all the rest can go. I understand why. I do. But so my thinking is, what if the Raiders, right? Both teams just are just like, okay, whatever. They're trying to put on a front, right? Uh, Manipulate the media, play hardball, right? Just negotiation 101. Just don't be the first person to pick up the phone type thing. People get antsy. Raiders get more excited for the draft and for their future. And there's another can't miss prospect that somebody from their scouting department brings to Tom Brady's desk or to Spytek's desk, and they start brainstorming, and they just, somebody has the perfect sales pitch, and it's like, oh God, we got to have this guy. Got to have Dylan Thieneman at 20. Cowboys, y'all still want Max Crosby? We'll take Dylan Thieneman. Give us pick 20, and it's a deal. Done. Call it good. We don't know that that's not going to be the case. We also don't know that the draft is going to proceed accordingly. No extra trades. Cowboys keep both their first round draft picks, pick 92 overall. They use it to select somebody, which I strongly doubt is going to happen, by the way. We'll see if I'm right or wrong about that. The synopsis and Foots actually agree with me too. His thoughts from a few days ago spurred that. And I commented under one of his posts. One way or another, whether they use it to trade up or use it to trade for a veteran that's currently in the league, they're not going to, the Dallas Cowboys will not be selecting. They won't be on the clock after the first 91 picks are taken. That's where I'm at. So West Texas Cowboys. He's thinking more along. This is the first comment that I've seen on all the work that I've posted today. It was a busy Friday for good reason. But this is the first comment right here that I've seen that rivals or exceeds the aggressive mentality that I personally have in my own brain, my own general manager brain. If I was the person making the decisions. He says, I'm getting Jordyn Brooks for a second round pick next year. So next year's second, future two. And then he says, I'm trading Cleveland 12 and 20 for picks 6 and 39. And his preference is David Bailey or Caleb Downs and Jacob Rodriguez. I'm out on David Bailey at 6. If I'm coming up for Caleb Downs. And I don't think you have to go as high as 6 to do it. I know a lot of people do. I'm okay with that. If that's what it truly takes. If we know for a fact that Washington's going to take Caleb Downs at 7, which I'm not convinced. I think Sonny Styles is in the mix. I think Arvell Reese could potentially be there. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that Arvell Reese is the first defensive player off the board at all. I don't even know if he's the second. But what I do know is that the Commanders are going to have a really tough decision to make. And I can't sit here and confidently say that Caleb Downs is going to be the guy at 7. Therefore, I can't confidently say that I absolutely want the Cowboys to trade up to get to pick number 6. One of my most recent posts was that I think, I'll just read it to you. The foregone conclusion at this point for me, like almost a lock, all but a lock, is there's 6 teams in the top 12. So half the field takes an offensive player. And that is unpopular. At least it's been unpopular for most mock drafts through whatever today is, March 20th. All right, so here's my thoughts. At this point, I'm considering the following teams very likely to take an offensive player before the Cowboys are on the clock at 12. Why is that not showing? Let me see. There we go. Raiders taking Fernando Mendoza, number 1 overall, obviously. Titans taking Jeremiah Love, 4th overall. Just look at what they did in free agency on the defensive side of the ball, and it's pretty easy to come to that conclusion. They want an offensive weapon to give Cam Ward a little bit of help. All right, so they take him at 4. And then you got the Giants, either a receiver or an offensive lineman, right? They're going to hedge their bet on Jackson Dart. That only makes sense. And then, so you do that by protecting him if you can, or giving him an extra weapon and also one that helps slow just the rehabilitation process for Malik Neighbors. So receiver or O-line firmly in play for me if I'm the Giants. Cleveland taking an offensive lineman. Look at all their moves. They need a left tackle. They need a left tackle. That's who I think they're after. Okay? Drop whichever offensive tackle that you want in for that pick, 6 overall with the Browns. They need an offensive tackle. And I think that's what they're going to do. They're going to get, in their minds, the best tackle, the number 1 tackle in the class. Boom, right there. And then the Saints, this is probably the most iffy for me. I can see them going either way. I can see keeping the hometown kid at home, or just, Mansour Delane just moving across the street from Baton Rouge to New Orleans. I can see that being the case, but it also makes sense for them to really try and see if they really struck gold with Tyler Shuck and getting him all the help that they think he needs to improve the offensive weaponry. It also pairs with their offensive-minded head coach. I think Kellen Moore's got quite a bit of pull in that organization as of right now. Of course, that the history of their head coach having lots of general manager pull and ability and duties with Sean Payton, right? It kind of makes sense. It kind of makes sense to me. But offensive player, I have wide receiver circled here. I think if the Giants do, in fact, go O-line, presumably let's just say Maui Noah. But take your pick, whoever you think your preference is, whoever you think the best fit is there. Let's say they take an offensive lineman. The number one wide receiver is still going to be on the board. So it's essentially the Saints pick of the litter between, Jordan Tyson or Mekhi Lemon or somebody like that, right? Just whoever they have as the number one graded receiver in the class. That makes sense to pair with Chris Olave, add extra ammunition for Tyler Shuck. Let's see what we got here. Right, let's try to make his life easier. Let's open up the box a little bit. Let's have two legitimate threats. Remember, they traded Rashid Shaheed last year. So they're looking for a weapon to replace that. And maybe they get it right there. All right. And then, of course, lastly, the Dolphins. I know that a lot of people think it's just a given for them to take a receiver there just because they traded Jalen Waddle. So it's just like the natural human instinct to just say, oh, okay, well, they're going to look for his replacement. I don't think that's necessarily the case. All right, here's my reasoning and my logic for that. They just brought in Malik Willis. All right, they kind of believe in him a little bit. They're pretty confident that they can make it work. They're giving him a pretty sizable deal. His contract would suggest that there's some faith there. All right, and I don't necessarily disagree. I'm curious to see how that goes. I'll be watching that situation closely. Now they've got Jalen Tolbert, Malik Washington. Obviously, they've got Devon Achane. Then they have $100 million of dead cap money that they're responsible for with just one player. And there's much more where that came from the remaining cuts and trades that they've made, including and not limited to Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. Of course, they traded Minkah Fitzpatrick as well. It's worth noting, I tried to allude to that earlier, that I'm still getting questions about Minkah Fitzpatrick's trade and why the Cowboys wouldn't give up a fifth-round pick. It just made no sense to some people, and they're furious by that. And to me, the explanation for that is very simple. Minkah Fitzpatrick wasn't just a fifth-round draft pick. He was a fifth-round draft pick in 3 years and $40 million extra dollars on top of that. So the Cowboys, by signing Jalen Thompson, not only do they think is a younger, equally as talented safety, they also got his services for $7 million in total guarantee or total contract value cheaper, while also preserving their cost-controlled fifth-round talent. That's going to be a contributor on special teams at best for the next few years, and then probably hit the streets. That's how it sounds harsh, but I say it that way only because of the recent passion and frustration in the discussions with all pro caliber players that the Cowboys could or would or should be interested in. Max Crosby and Jordyn Brooks, not the least of which. Draft picks in the future mean absolutely nothing to me if I am trying to win amidst the win it window, which extends through, realistically speaking, about the year 2028, which is 1, 2, 3 years from now. You've got a 3-year window to get it done. What in the world does a future second-round draft pick, what does next year's Kelvin Joseph, next year's Tristan Hill, next year's Luke Schoonmaker, next year's you name it, what does that do for me? What bearing does that have on my inability, if that's the difference right there? That's the cutoff. That's the absolution. No. No, thank you. I'm out on the Jordyn Brooks sweepstakes. Think about how crazy that sounds. When you think of it along the lines of Jordyn Brooks, and yes, I see you, Nick, with the $1.99 super chat. Thank you for chiming in today, brother. Thank you. What bearing? In what world am I selecting, lobbying for Kelvin Joseph, Luke Schoonmaker, Tristan Hill? I know I'm forgetting at least one or two more really, really ugly examples. In what world am I lobbying for those guys over Jordyn Brooks, who by the NFL's accounts is the best linebacker in football, or at least one of the 4? You know, the crazy thing about all this, though, is just making sure you guys are fully aware. I haven't really touched on their compensation yet. We were going to get to that soon. Al-Shaair is more expensive, even though he's technically the lesser of the two players. He comes with more dead money for the Texans, and then he also is technically more expensive for the Cowboys on their books in year one, in theory. Azeez Al-Shaair is going to cost about $11 million to play this season, and then for Jordyn Brooks, it's about $7.25 million. And just letting you guys know, just for the record, because I am really excited about it, I have officially logged into or signed up for and paid for a course that's going to just take my knowledge and understanding of the salary cap and just a lot of the general manager related happenings for the National Football League to the next level. And it's going to be, it'll be like just a credentialed thing for me to learn a little bit, but then be able to thereby creatively convey the truth about what's really happening in that much more detail and with that much more accuracy and precision. And I'm really looking forward to it. Not a cheap endeavor, but one that I'm obviously perceiving as an investment. And like I mentioned earlier, at the very least, and if nothing else, just a tax write-off for the purpose of this platform here, right? The soon to be 8,000, we're real close. You guys showed me a lot of love on today's project this morning. The goal was to get to 10K before draft day. We haven't been as in depth on the draft and all the prospects as we would like to. The plan originally, I know I said about 2.5 months ago that we would have one just full prospect review per week, but just travel, my situation with my grandma, the 3 kids, man, it's just my free time to truly deep dive into each player as in depth as I want to. It hasn't been there. So the process as far as me getting to the prospects that I think fit and make sense, they're still coming. It's just happening at a much slower rate than I originally wanted. But with all that being said, I think there's still a chance that we can get to 10K before the draft gets here. So if you're one of the few, or one of the few that are in here, but one of the many that are watching my content on a regular basis that are still unsubscribed, and if you can, just take a couple seconds, man, real quick, look down, hit that button if you haven't already, and just trust that it's for good use and for good reason, and I don't take it lightly. Thank you. So thank you for the transition, West Texas Cowboys, because I know that I have been needing to touch on that, and it's been circled here. It's on the agenda. But so, okay, that is true. But it pales in comparison to the understanding, or not, I shouldn't say it pales in comparison. It is the same exact type of conversations. Like just a few examples, right? When Micah was traded last year, all of a sudden, within the 24 hours, his contract, like his record-setting $47 million a year APY, which is not relevant. It's not the most relevant thing to look at. And that's one of the things that I'm eager to hear verified in this course that I'll be taking beginning on April 20th, just next month. But all of a sudden, they've got 4 years, 47 APY, all the guarantees, all the incentives, all the just all the signing bonuses and all just the financial structures built in for this really extensive contract with the most lucrative, most difficult to deal with agency and the top dog agent from within that. It's like, okay, come on, guys, you ain't fooling us. We know that these talks have been happening for weeks now about what does compensation look like, right? The Packers were getting a feel for Micah Parsons' market with Micah's agent, David Mulligetta. It's not a secret. That's why I said I had a reel just a few weeks ago when the reports about the Packers tampering with Brandon Aubrey came out. And I'm like, guys, the Packers are now, yes, they are the recurring theme as far as like the allegations go with tampering, but it's just it's a unfortunate but very real and very, there's nothing that we can do about it. It's part of sports. It is what it is. Right, but so like every team is guilty of it, and for good reason. And I see you with the $5 more super chat over there, Nick. Thank you so much for the support, man. Let me get to that question in just 1 second. I'll finish this thought. Brandon Aubrey, we thought that they were tampering with him and whatnot, but every team does it. Everybody's guilty. It's one of those things that we can't really legislate, and we just kind of got to accept it. right? And that's the case here. Okay. The Cowboys, if they were to pull off a trade, you don't have to worry about extending him or him playing on a 1-year deal. And I realized that that was the case last year with George Pickens, but it's much different when you consider, and trust me, like, hear me when I say this, please.
Guys, listen.
When you're a 24-year-old entering your first real contract negotiation with your entire future, your entire prime ahead of you, it's different than when you're a rapidly depreciating asset who's already 2+ contracts in, and you're knocking on the doorstep of being 30 years old, even though you were just an all-pro. It's still different, right? So guarantees are much less difficult to come by with regards to posturing, because you just have less leverage. It just is what it is. The older you get in the league, the less leverage that you have, right? And Jordyn Brooks is not he's a brilliant guy, obviously a phenomenal athlete, but he understands that Father Time is undefeated. And so it's not difficult to conceivably see that, like, a deal would be all but done behind closed doors before the Cowboys agreed to pull this type of thing off. It's just the way that it works, guys. It's business. Handshake deals, if you will. But it makes sense for him, like, guarantee me, even if it's 2 more years. I don't know if it would be 1 or 2. Most guys aren't going to really agree to an extra 1-year extension, although I think Danielle Hunter just did that, right? With the 1-year fully guaranteed $40 million extension. I think that was the case this offseason. But man, if I can guarantee myself, if I like the coordinator, he's obviously a Texas native, or at least he graduated from Texas Tech. It's where he went to school. Familiar with the state, can see himself living there, potentially retiring there. Why would you say no to a 2-year discounted deal, even if it is $15 million a year? You can incentivize that. You can add voided years to it, and it can be a non-factor. What's the problem? What's the issue? To me, there isn't one. So that's just where I'm at. All right, now to the other super chat. And I see you too, Suave. I'll get to you in just a second, man. Thank you. Nick says, on a scale from 1 to 10, how scared are you of Shamar James being linebacker 2 if they go different rounds 1 through 3? So I will say this. Great question, by the way. We don't want that to be the case. You're right. How scared would I be if that were the case? 11. But how scared am I that it's going to be? Right there. 0. Thank you for the question. Suave says, I'm here for a good time, not a long time. $5. He says, for the work. For the brand. I respect it. I'd rather have Brooks too over just about anybody. And guess what? So would the National Football League. Just saying. Y'all go check out, we can do that here, actually. I'll turn the speed up. Let's do that while we're at it. Is the stream quality okay, by the way? Mic check. Video check. And I do have I've upgraded the camera situation, so whenever I go live, I can't use my traditional one because it's not really built for it. It gets overheated too quickly, and I haven't found a resolution for that. So that's why you guys kind of see my camera resolution teeter back and forth between 4K and 1080p. You're currently seeing 1080p right now. That's what I need to really turn that down so it's not so much of a glare. Should have done that a while ago. A little better. Less blinding. And I can honestly turn this one down a little bit too. Don't need all these LEDs up in here, man. Not good for the brain. Stream is perfect. Okay, cool. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Klebo. Love that name, by the way. I always love seeing it and saying it in my head. Let's go to John Oning's page. Hopefully he hasn't been tweeting too much so it can be easily found. See the respect right there. We follow each other. Of course we do. Y'all can't see that, can you? Hold up. Okay. He had a threat. Here we go. He says 12 hours ago, bring me Brooks or bring me death. Let me speed this up so I don't get copyright strike here real quick. I think it's actually already sped up, if I'm not mistaken. Take a peek. Y'all see where he just came from, right? Right there, all the way across the screen. And that's a scat back, by the way. I forget 23's name, but it's not Rico and it's not Chuba Hubbard. Somebody tell me who 23 is, but he's a gadget dude. And he tracks him down. Watch this. All the way across the formation. I mean, you don't have to. What more needs to be said? There doesn't need to be any additional context added when you see it like this from Lando. That's ridiculous stuff. That's all pro stuff right there. That's what it is. Okay. Now, oops, that's not what I wanted to do. Here's the next one. You see it right here. Shout out to John Owning once again. John Owning of PFF at JOHNOWNING for those of you who are driving or just passively listening, not looking at the screen. This is a more impressive rep to me because of not only diagnosing where the play is happening, right? But he's got the ability to get through two separate levels of traffic and work back across the formation, two different occasions to come in and make this tackle. He dips right under McGovern. I think that's who that is, number 66. Or left guard there, whoever it is. And he navigates, like, look at the bend and just the fluidity, man. Watch him slip that block and then knife right through all the traffic there for the play. It's just the instincts, man, the understanding of where to be and how to get there. It's just you can't teach, cannot teach it. This is rare ability to process. Man, that's a ridiculous play. All right. That's all he's got right there so far. There's more, but you guys get the point. I don't want to get the copyright strike here, so I'm going to call it good right there on that and just assume that we're all in one accord. Stop sharing that one. So what other anything else that I need to like further contextualize or elaborate on? Okay, yeah, great. Hey, so I actually posted this myself, and I can't take credit for the intellectual property here. Somebody else in my comment section, I think it was Champ Boy. Champ Boy was the first one that said it, but I took that and made it into its own tweet just to kind of see, because I was getting yelled at. I was just trying to see, all right, like gauge the nation, right? What compensation are you okay with? I was trying to understand what everybody was saying because I really couldn't. I was stumped. But yeah, so in this proposal here from Dan, and thank you for reminding me. I appreciate you for being here and for helping contribute to the stream tonight. But it was this right here. Dolphins get pick number 20. Cowboys get Jordyn Brooks in pick number 30. How do we feel about that one? And just keep in mind, most teams, most organizations are going to have anywhere between 11 and 16 true first round grades on any given calendar year. So, in other words, the Cowboys are getting a second round graded player in this scenario no matter what. See what I did there? So now you might as well take the veteran, the proven, the all pro, the proven product versus the prospect project. That's bars right there. I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna have to write that down. We just whiteboard. The proven player. No, that's not good enough. The proven product versus the prospect project. Boom. That right there sums up my thoughts on just about everything that's happened so far in the Cowboys offseason, including Rashawn Gary, including Max Crosby, including this hypothetical, alleged, potential, perhaps, maybe, possibly, we'll see scenario here with Jordyn Brooks and or Azeez Al-Shaair. Once again, I agree. It makes less sense for the Texans to part ways with Al-Shaair versus the Dolphins to part ways with Jordyn Brooks. That's not rocket science. Okay. Yeah. I've actually been saying that one, but I haven't lumped that in, tired Cowboys fan, I haven't lumped it together with proven product yet. So proven product versus prospect project. That's really what we're talking about here. I feel you on that. West Coast or West Texas. Nick with 5 more. I see you, man. Thank you for contributing tonight, brother. Thank you so much. Appreciate you. My astronaut friend. He says, Clowney seems like an obvious re-sign for how cheap he'll be, right? Yes, he did for a while, still does. And maybe he will be, right? He's one of those dudes that he's such a seasoned veteran that, like the Jonathan Hankins situation a couple years back, it's like, who was the other defensive tackle recently? Linval Joseph, right? Players like that, they want no part of training camp, right? What's the purpose? What's the incentive, right? They are who they are. They're just helping out teams who need that specific position. They know it. They'll take a 1-year deal just to, they want some guaranteed money. They still like playing. They're still physically able, but they don't have to prove themselves in training camp. They can preserve their body in training camp. So that could be a situation where he's just kind of on speed dial, We'll see. And I do agree it makes sense. And I think that's part of the Sam Williams prototype. Like Christian Parker's trying to get some of that Jadeveon Clowney out of Sam Williams. He sees a little bit of hope there. He's still a dude that come off a devastating knee injury at a tough position to overcome it at. So let's be patient with it. Let's see, right? And once again, I'm not lobbying for it. I'm not trying to carry the Cowboys water for him. I'm just admitting that I was wrong about Sam. I thought for sure, done deal. Get him out of here. I was wrong about them retaining him, and now I hope that I'm wrong about him as a player. Remember the question that I asked about, I don't know, a long time ago now, 3 months ago maybe? Not quite, probably 2 months ago. What is more likely? I've said it a few times since then, but the point is, are we valuing Christian Parker enough? That was actually a part of this morning's reel that I posted too. I want people to, I want to get y'all's feedback on it, but I also want to kind of condition you to think along those lines. And I know Vach also recently alluded to it as well. So shout out to him too. Great minds, of course. How much are we discounting the added value of a Christian Parker? I understand. So let me just say it this way. Let's talk about this, right? Because I haven't said this publicly yet. There's 3 tiers. Getting a little toasty up in here. Talking too much. I don't really need the headphones. And shout out to the official partner of the Lando Show, by the way, Waggle, getyourwaggle.com. I need to just have like an entire, I'm probably just going to film a commercial for them. Not really a commercial, but just like to where I can have everything right there. So you can just see the array of hats that they have and why I mean it when I say, and I know it's true that they literally have something for everyone. You don't have to like golf to love their stuff. But shout out to my good friends over at Waggle. Getyourwaggle.com, code Lando Show for 10% off your order. They got some amazing stuff. best hats in the game, in my opinion. But Christian Parker hasn't been a defensive coordinator yet, right? By most accounts, including Eagles fans, Eagles former players, and Eagles staff in the front office and the football side of things as well, right? So both parts of the Eagles staff, Eagles fans, and Eagles players, all pro players at that, Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, amongst many others. Just ask anybody and you'll get the same exact answer. Okay? There's three things to keep in mind with coordination in general, but for this particular case, the first time play caller, the first time DC, Christian Parker for the Dallas Cowboys. Okay. So you've got the pregame preparation element. That area we feel great about. He's going to check that box no matter what, right? That's a given based on what we know about him as of today. Okay. So the the pregame preparation, he's going to have his team ready. And it's going to be tailored to their specific, not just their personnel, but to each individual matchup. It's not just going to be a one-trick pony that can get gashed by the Buffalo Bills in the regular season a couple years back. When Josh Allen completes 7 passes, drops back 15 times, that you get blown out by 30-plus points because you can't stop the run. By the way, I haven't mentioned this yet either, but just food for thought. The league is trending that direction. Christian Parker knows this. Hence, run-stop guys, Kenny Clark and Quinnen Williams more so than Osa. As good of a player as I think that he is, more of a penetrating pass rush type at that position. Rashawn Gary, what's his superpower? You tell me. Is Sam Williams a technician at the edge position getting after the quarterback? Absolutely not. He's a super athlete that they're just taking a chance on. But it's the prototype, the traits that he possesses to have the similar impact in the run game as a Rashawn Gary, for instance, or a Jadeveon Clowney. Okay, so you've got that part, right? You've got the pre-game preparation. They're going to check that box with Christian Parker. But then you've also got the in-game adjustments. Okay, this is the 3 separate points of criteria that I'll be evaluating that I think are most important to consider here for a first-time defensive coordinator, especially. So pre-game preparation, the in-game adjustments, and then situational play calling. Red zone, 3rd and short, 4th and short, 4th quarter, 2-minute drill type stuff. What's your heart rate in those moments? Can you be the difference in those moments for your team, for your personnel? So those 3 separate sets of criteria, we know for a fact he's going to check one of those boxes. The other 2 remain to be seen. But we obviously feel good about them for good reason. Okay, but just factoring that in, if they are more prepared than they recently have been, and we know for a fact that that's the case, regardless of the other 2 sets of criteria to evaluate, if we can guarantee that 33% right there, then regardless of who else is getting added to the mix, all pro or not, linebacker or not, edge or not, first round draft pick, 12 and 20 or not, next year's 2 or not, pick 92 this year for Jonathan Grenard or not, Christian Parker raises the floor because of that 33%. Right? Is it hard to be more prepared on a week-to-week basis? More versatile? More physical? than a Matt Eberflus defense? Than a Dan Quinn defense? An incredibly one-dimensional one at that. Mike Zimmer's unit was more nuanced and disciplined than the aforementioned two. But even still, his handle on the personnel, the front office's approach towards acquiring said personnel, and then the ability to relate to and teach to said personnel, I think I give Christian Parker the edge in each of the three over Mike Zimmer. Just that portion of it, right? There's something to be said for a guy like Mike Zimmer and his tenure. Don't get it twisted. But the year one impact, your ability to connect with and relate to the athlete is paramount. It's paramount. So the floor is elevated already. They've spent astronomically more at safety. Just one position alone, top of the market value at the safety position than they have in over a decade. They're better there, regardless of Caleb Downs at 12, regardless of Dylan Thieneman at 12 or 20. They're just the personnel alone suggests that they're going to be better stopping the run this year. Not only are they going to be more committed to the five-man front or one-on-one matchups, but the scheme itself is going to be tailor-made for run stop. And now they have the personnel to pair it with. That's why Max Crosby was such a focal point, because of the top, say, 5 edges in football, there might only be one guy that stands above Max in the run department. Rare talents, man. And now we got Rashawn Gary for $5.5 million on the books in 2026. Are you kidding me? $16 million in total guarantees over the next 2 years, but an out after this year if we post June 1 him, no problem. Potentially adding an all-pro linebacker to play behind 2 Pro Bowl and all-pro caliber interior players as well. He was an all-pro in Miami. What is he playing behind Quentin Williams and Kenny Clark? I don't know. I'm just asking questions, guys. I'm not, I mean, it's obviously not definitive. There's still to be determined, but this is the way that I perceive what's happening. I'm trying to logically and objectively, creatively convey what's going on right now. Like, their desperation isn't to the tune of the current pulse of the nation. The Cowboys organization themselves is operating with more patience and confidence than the fan base is. Rightfully so. The fan base has no reason to trust them. I understand. I get it. But I'm just trying to be the middleman here. I'm trying to convey it from both sides of the equation. The way a general manager thinks right now. What good does it do? Why would the Cowboys rush to a value on Max Crosby when every other team that was interested prior to the fabricated Eric DeCosta Raven situation, they've gone on and addressed their edge room. They've gone on and overpaid for their edge room, if you will, right? The market's dried up. What other contending roster with the compensation enough to acquire a player like Max Crosby? Who else is left? What is the urgency Be patient. Let the Raiders be the desperate team looking for cost-controlled talent while they hit the reset button with the first overall draft pick. I know how much they spent in free agency this year. None of those guys determine anything as far as Fernando Mendoza's growth and development in the most difficult time to come of age as a quarterback than ever before because of coordinators like Christian Parker, not unlike Brian Flores. The modern way, right? What you see before the ball snapped has never been more different than after the ball is snapped than it is today in 2026. Remember what Kirk Cousins said about pure progression passing? Go look that up. F them picks. Yeah. Hey, listen, if Jordyn Brooks is truly a third-round draft pick and change, let's say, and yes, I'm including next year's second round in the change column just for the sake of ease. All right, but if it's truly this year's third and change for Jordyn Brooks, then they absolutely have the compensation necessary to acquire both guys. They do. Now, there's no set of circumstances where the Cowboys don't have a draft pick before the fourth round this year. So just to rule that out, right, they're not going to give up picks 12 and 20 this year. They're not going to. They're going to make the Raiders come down from their original asking price, as they should. Okay. And they're going to make a selection in round one way or another. But that doesn't rule out Max Crosby. Whether he's 20 and 92, whether he's 20 and next year's 2, and Jordyn Brooks is this year's 3, and then a bevy of day 3 picks. I don't exactly know. I don't know if either of the aforementioned will happen. I'm just trying to get you to understand both sides of the equation. It's realistic. It's possible that both are had. Let's apply a little bit of pressure to the front office, if we will. Let's continue making some noise. Let's bang some drums. We know, based on Jerry's words, that he hears some of the stuff that we're saying over here. And not just me. And who knows if it is me at all. But I know the impact that we have. I'm not a fool. I wouldn't be awake right now when I could have been asleep 3.5 hours ago if I didn't. This stuff matters to me. I wouldn't be enrolling in a $1,500 salary cap course if it didn't matter to me. I believe very, very strongly in this. But even if I'm wrong about what could or should happen with the soon-to-be veteran talent acquisition, where I find there's peace knowing the recent track record of teams flipping a switch just like that on the defensive side of the ball. Look at the Texans. Look at the Seahawks. Look at the Ravens after they lost after they lost Mike McDonald. Look at the Chargers even, since they've fired Brandon Staley. Their identity, even offensively, is drastically different in a heartbeat. It doesn't take much to be better in general, across the league, but especially for the worst defense that we can recall ever seeing. Where we make Jacoby Brissett's and Russell Wilson's who get benched a week later for a rookie, and arguably the least accurate quarterback in football last year in J.J. McCarthy. They just look like all pros. Suave with 5 more. Great job, brother. Thank you, man. I appreciate you, bro. Thank you. I literally signed on today. I was thinking, let me get 30 minutes in. And here we are, an hour 15 in. But, man, you guys are why. People like yourself, Suave. Catch me up, big dog, Lando. Man, I'd be here for another hour and 15 minutes if I caught you up completely. I apologize. I can't. There's no way for me to do it in a reasonable manner. I apologize. But the good news for you, Vincent, is that the playback button is an option. All you gotta do is just drag that timeline back and just rock with us. We're glad that you're here. And by the way, just for those of you that are interested, it's still 60 people in here. The membership feature is officially active. You can consider taking your support for this platform to the next level, if you will. I'll be straightforward with you, just completely upfront. There's no content that you will have extra access to, but there is a members only Discord chat where the conversation is happening around the clock. And there are other perks that you can look and see. Like you can guarantee, obviously, members here are going to guarantee that their question is heard for certain. But then other things as well, where there will be instances in the future where we have just live film reviews and breakdowns, and we'll also have fantasy football discussions and conversations where it's more of like a just bouncing questions off me, almost as like a mentor, like a fantasy football mentorship type deal. Because I really have a lot of fun doing that type of stuff as well, and I know that everybody's interested in it. So it's like, just from a business standpoint, part of the thinking for adding the membership tiers that you guys, once again, you can go and check down just below. I'd be foolish not to at least partially include that into my work right now, as busy as I am, because as many Cowboys fans as there are, the amount of Cowboys fans still pales in comparison to the amount of people that play fantasy football, right? The whole world does. Even if you don't know anything about football, you're still playing it. Most people do. I venture to say 8 out of 10 people are playing fantasy football, where 3 out of 10 in the state of Texas are Cowboys fans or whatever. You get the point. That Vikings game made you the sickest, hands down. Yeah, man. There was JJ McCarthy out there looking like Lamar freaking Jackson, man. What's up, Tyrone? Tyrone Church. 2-year extension. Okay, there we go. Now we're talking ball. I see you. I'm ready for a Jordyn Brooks to the Cowboys, and I will give him a 2-year extension. Sign me up, man. You already know where I'm at on it. Let me go through my comments over here on the Twitter side, because I know I had some pretty passionate takes earlier today. So here's my thing. What are so Nick Harris clearly heard something, right? Todd Archer clearly heard something. They're both talking about it like the same thing in the same day. It's not a coincidence. It makes obvious sense as to what why it would make sense for the Dolphins to do it, right? And I hope this isn't confusing, but so the thinking is, yeah, he grittied on him. That was crazy, dude. That was so crazy. When he did that, I literally just did this. I was like, my arms were folded, and this is what I hit him with. I sat there on my couch. I saw him gritty, and I hit one of these, like, and I just looked at my wife, and it was just almost like I was kind of proud for him, but just in utter disbelief. Like, is this real? Is this actually happening? And it absolutely was. But yeah, man, that dude grittied on us. The team that thinks that Kyler Murray is a necessary is a necessary investment. Let's go, Suave. I see you, man. Yeah. Just became a member. Hey, shoot me either a DM or an email at landonholyfield@gmail.com. I'll type it right here so that I can send you the access link for the Discord so that you can be up in there with us. In the chat box right now for you. Wait. HOLIFIELD. Right now. Send me an email there. Assuming you don't have, some people say they have issues. That's why I say that. It's because they say they have issues messaging me on X. I don't know why. Sometimes it goes to private and I don't see it, and it's an ordeal. But just do both if it's just a guarantee that I see it in the next couple days. And I'll make sure that you get taken care of in there. Thank you so much, brother. What else? Closing thoughts. Talk to me before we get out of here. I'm fresh out of water here. I got to go run up and get a refill. We just sold our house the other day. So we'll be going through the whole studio makeover once again and trying to get things set up. I'm really excited. That's why the new camera's coming. We're going all the way in. All in on 2026. Not that we haven't been already. We absolutely have been. But what's up, West Coast? That's cool to see you in here, man. I remember lurking in your chats and your streams for a long time ago, before I was too scared to dive all the way in. It's pretty cool. I appreciate you being here this late, man. Thank you. I guess if you truly are on the West Coast, it's not as late for you as it is for us. But needless to say, it's cool to see your name once again. I haven't seen much of your work in a while, and it's not because of you. It's because of me, because I don't have any free time these days. So all the work that you guys see, it's just kind of me my own due diligence and my own thoughts. So that's why we have stuff like this, just to kind of clarify, because there's only so much I can say in a show that's not live where I know if I'm saying enough. Does that make sense? Like if I'm contextualizing my points appropriately for you guys to truly understand in a palatable manner, I don't fully know unless I'm doing a live show. So. Man, that's cool. That's cool to hear. So West Coast says, I literally watched your video today to get contract information on Jordyn Brooks. Well played. Thank you. So yeah, I don't know if you were here earlier. I don't know how long you've been in the chat, but I'm really excited. On April 20th, I'm taking a course to become more of a master on that topic in particular. I recognize the rift in the market. This particular niche has a massive void in the amount of folks who can truly understand and contextualize numbers and the salary cap and accounting. And so I'm taking it upon myself because I'm curious, for one. I love it. For two, you guys clearly enjoy it. For three, but then number four, man, it's just I want to level this thing up. I'm just 10 toes down and head first in everything. So I'm really looking forward to being able to just like the back of my hand, off the cuff, let y'all know exactly what to expect, exactly what's going on, all those types of things. So just I guess to follow up on that note right there, anyone have questions, comments, or concerns about the salary cap ramifications or the trade compensation ramifications for Jordyn Brooks? If so, let me know, and I'll be happy to try to reiterate if I can. Get to some more, make sure I'm not forgetting anything over here on the Twitter side of things. Whether it's 112, 92, or next year's 2, I don't see why there would be any hesitation from the Cowboys' perspective to not pull the trigger on a Jordyn Brooks situation. Assuming that they are truly shopping him, there is no reasonable compensation that I'm out on. Cowboys, I think I said this earlier, essentially they're trading Osa Odigizua, who was, let's be real, as much as we like Osa, he was DT3 on this roster. So in the event that Jordyn Brooks is acquired for a 3 and change, the Cowboys are essentially trading Osa Odigizua, their DT3, for an all-pro middle linebacker. That's a move you make 10 days out of 10, 10 times out of 10. For me, I'm not hesitating. Here's some more of the numbers I think that West Coast was kind of alluding to right here. Y'all can see this. Email sent. Cool. Thank you. Thank you, Suave. I see you, man. I truly don't know. I think for me, West Coast, I think I'll be shocked if the Texans do truly part ways with Al-Shaair. I really will. That team needs, they're kind of like the Cowboys are right now, parting ways with proven products at this stage of the game for them doesn't make sense unless there's an immediate contingency plan. That is why that thought right there is why I'm so convinced that 92, after the first 91 picks happen in this year's NFL draft, the Cowboys won't be on the clock at pick 92. For that reason right there. And so it's the same logic. Is I don't see them moving Al-Shaair. I think that there's real momentum with that being something that they might be interested in if the price is right. If they get absolutely blown away by an offer they can't refuse, they'll take it. But they're not looking to maximize their return on investment right now. Whereas the Dolphins, they're not even close to winning. They're completely hitting the reset button for crying out loud. They got Jalen Tolbert right now, their de facto wide receiver one, or one of them, alongside a couple other Jags, right? But they're looking at a situation where they let Jordyn Brooks go, assuming his compensation and free agency on the open market next year. So the free agency portion of the 2027 calendar, right? He signs a hefty enough contract, something to the tune of, let's call it three years, I don't know, $70 million, which the contract that he's currently playing on is 3 years, 24. So that'd be a massive jump for a 30-year-old. But he's an all-pro this year for the first time in his career. So you could see that jump, that price tag going way up. And it's not, once again, the APY, it's the total contract value. It's just the guarantees that will really be of utmost importance. And that'll be likely largely an incentive-laden deal for a player of his status and age, right? So it's like, hey, how many games do you play? How many tackles do you have? Do we make the playoffs? Here's X amount of extra millions on top of your contract, your base salary, right? So I don't know. Let's just say 3 for 50, 3 years, $50 million. That sounds more reasonable. And then it would just be completely lost track of my thought right there. I don't even remember what I was trying to say. I'll be curious to know what that's about right there. He says, just saw West Coast trying to go 1v6. Goofies on the fifth quarter panel said they call themselves Cowboys fans. That's funny. West Coast he was always so entertaining to watch. If Jerry drafts 2 defensive players at 12 and 20, there's no way they re-sign both in 4 to 5 years. So why not get one offensive player? I just don't want him sharing snaps with Williams if they was to do it. Ooh. Oh, you're talking about Love. Okay. Man, I'll be shocked if Love gets to pick 12 overall. Personally, I think he's a lock for. So looking at what the Titans did in free agency this year, it's just defense. They had a reasonably productive offensive campaign, even despite being very limited with their skill position personnel last year. I think they're going to try to give Cam Ward some help and see if he truly is their future, because it like their tea leaves and breadcrumbs show me that they're interested in getting a difference-making offensive weapon to pair alongside him. And to me, that obvious offensive weapon in this particular draft is Jeremiah Love. But I love the thought process. I love being thinking outside the box and being open to unconventional circumstances. That was me last year with the offensive line situation. There's, like I said, I don't expect they're not going to be nearly as desperate for linebacker and edge, I don't think, on draft day as the fan base currently feels that they are right now. So, hey man, there's a world where Love at 12 is I could see him pulling the trigger on it. There's no way, if he gets to 12, let's just put it this way, there's no way he won't be the best player on their board at that point. What else are we missing? Any other thoughts? $7 million for an all-pro on the books in 2027 is crazy, man. I still can't get over that. This is one extra housekeeping note that I added just to help people understand like dead money and why it's different. So like the Texans and the Dolphins would both be eating some dead money if they were to trade both of those two players. They're both saving $2 million apiece on this year's salary cap, but they are each accruing between $8 and $12 million of dead money. And this is why right here. So the team trading a player away usually eats dead money because all remaining unamortized, how do you pronounce that? Unamortized signing bonuses, which I have here in parentheses, prorated money. I can't believe I've never actually said that word out loud. That's crazy. I've always just typed it. Try to actually pronounce it. Wow. I need to go take a nap after that one. Freaking doofus.
All right, yeah, get him the hell out of here, will you?
The team trading a player away usually eats dead money because of the remaining unamortized signing bonuses. The prorated money from previous years immediately accelerates and count against the team's salary cap, acting as a sunk cost. However, the new team takes on future base salaries and roster bonuses. So let me just show you all that because that's a mouthful. I ain't no fool. Well, I might be a fool, but I'm at least smart enough to know that that is a mouthful. Right there. Housekeeping note with the broom next to it. Right there. Hey, so that was actually on the agenda to study or to, I've already begun studying him, but to convey my findings from Josiah Trotter for 2 days ago. I think it was Wednesday. Yeah, I think it was Wednesday. And life happened, so I didn't get to it. But yeah, so that's another factor to consider, right? Obviously, the Dolphins know that the Cowboys are desperate, Suave. That is true. However, the Cowboys, so this is why they prefer to operate in the trade market versus free agency. And I think I may have alluded to this earlier. If I didn't, I will right now. They prefer to offer because to operate more aggressively in the trade market than in free agency because they have leverage. They can say no. They're only negotiating with one other party as opposed to 31 others. So while that is true, what you're saying is true. The Cowboys don't have to do anything. They can trade for another guy. They can sign Bobby Wagner. They can, bring Bobby Okereke in here. They can go get whatever that dude's name was in my comment section earlier on X, who said he'd rather have Kenneth Murray back than to trade a 2027 second round draft pick for instant all pro caliber help right now. There ain't nobody in their right mind that believes that. I'm sorry. That was the fastest mute I've ever had. Ever. Watch your previous comments become possibilities. What you talking about here? Trade down with Tampa, get extra pick, and give up the 5th to get the best second pick. Ooh, I'm sorry. That's a mouthful right there, too. Brooks, man. Hey, yeah. West Coast knows. Dude, that dude. Dude, hopefully it should go without saying. The difference between Pro Bowl and All Pro, different. All Pro, you are one of 2. Like, let me just show you the list. And I really got to go because I'm parched over here. Give me the roster. I don't want names and, Okay, here we go. All right, so we got first team All Pros. Here we go. Defense. At edge, we've got Myles Garrett, Will Anderson Jr. of the Houston Texans, and Micah Parsons of the Green Bay Packers. Okay? So 3 edges. We've got 2 interior D linemen, Jeff Simmons from the Titans and Zach Allen from Denver. And then we've also got 2 off-ball backers, Jack Campbell of the Detroit Lions, and guess who? Jordyn Brooks of the Miami Dolphins. The NFL believes that Jordyn Brooks is one of 2 in the entire National Football League at his position. If we include the second team honors, we can also add those guys in, and they are as follows: Devin Lloyd of the Jacksonville Jaguars and Ernest Jones of the Seattle Seahawks. So the NFL says that there are 3 players worthy of the same consideration as Jordyn Brooks. That right there, guys and girls, is company that you don't sneeze at, even if the difference is what you perceive to be a substantial gap between a future second-round pick and this year's third. It's really, really not. What we're doing is being dishonest with our understanding of what those future prospect projects will become. And we're also being hypocritical after we just got done saying that 12 next year's 2 and a player is A-okay for a 28-year-old All-Pro at a different position than it is for a 29-year-old All-Pro at the linebacker spot. But it's a fraction of the cost. We're saying no? Just because he plays off-ball backer? Let me tell you something, man. The disparity between the 2 positions is already, it's jaded, it's an outdated, it's a flawed conventional wisdom, for one. I know what the price and the market value says the edge position is worth relative to the off-ball backer position, but I'm here to tell you that is quickly changing. That gap is rapidly closing because of, once again, to reference the conversation that I had, the project that I specifically dedicated to work with Vach because I believe that much in it. 8 months ago, 9 months ago, whenever it was, offenses are getting big again. Christian Parker understands this. That's why the lesser of the 3 run stoppers at their positional surplus at defensive tackle is now gone. That's why Rashawn Gary is now here. That's why Max Crosby was very much in the conversation and still is, as he should be. That's why CJ Allen is firmly in the range of outcomes for the Cowboys at pick 20. Ready-made and pro-ready right now. But even at that, even one of the more, if not the most, pro-ready prospect outside of, say, Caleb Downs, of incoming rookies on the defensive side of the ball, even that still pales in comparison to that of a proven all-pro commodity. I don't care about his age either, West Coast. I agree with you. I've said that many, many times, and I'll say it until I'm blue in the face. I don't care how old he is. You damn right about that. Right. That's a unicorn. Exactly. That's what I'm trying to say is like, I don't think we understand not only like how difficult they are to come by, how rare they are in general, all pros that is, but how many of them do you actually have a chance to acquire for a reasonable rate? But then take it a step further and ask yourselves, how many do you have a chance to acquire at a significantly discounted rate? That's crazy. 7 million? Do we realize that? I'm going to tweet this right now. Hold up. Thank you, West Coast. You just gave me the best idea, brother. Do we really? You guys are going to hear me say this in real time. Do we realize the Cowboys could have Jordyn Brooks on their roster this year for the same salary cap implications? Y'all know where I'm going with this, hopefully by now. For the same exact salary cap implications as Kenneth Murray. Woo-hoo-hoo-hoo-wee. Let me just, before I hit send and make a fool of myself, let me make sure that that was his price. It was something to that tune. I don't know exactly if it was quite that high. Kenneth Murray, track. What was his contract with the Cowboys, y'all? What was Kenneth Murray's base salary last year? Why is it not? It's not showing me on. Let me try over the cap. Because something's telling me it wasn't quite that high. Yeah, right here. Contract history. Amount earned 2024. That should say 2020. Oh, year signed. Okay, so it was, yeah, technically. But the year played. So Dallas Cowboys, $7.5 million earned. Am I correct on that? Just to be sure before I hit send. Yeah, sadly. For Cooper's son. And I only say that. I only correct you because I'm specific to it because I cover the Horns too. In the fall, I work with Inside Texas, so I'm obviously privy to a lot of information there, and I agree with you. It's a fire sale for his services. There's no question about it. Arch is the real deal. Okay, so his base salary with the Cowboys was $5.99 million and a $7.41 million cap hit. Okay, so I'm correct. That's all I was curious about. I'm gonna take your word for it right there, West Coast, and I appreciate you chiming in and contributing. Do we realize the Cowboys could have Jordyn Brooks on their roster this year for the same salary cap implications as Kenneth Murray Jr.? So in parentheses, I'm going to put 7 point, did you say 4.1 million? I think that's what you said. Hold up. And Jordyn Brooks was what, 7.2, I believe? So it would actually be, okay, no, sorry, 7.8. $7.8 million. So Kenneth Murray Jr. would be about $400,000 cheaper than Jordyn Brooks. An all freaking pro, man. That's crazy. And I probably shouldn't say this. I don't want to I don't want to disrespect Kenneth Murray, but it's like, am I disrespecting him if I'm being honest? I just want to be fair. I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but at the same time, I got a job to do. I'm trying to contextualize this stuff for y'all, I'm going to do it. Because I'm technically not saying anything negative about KM. So I'm okay hitting send on this one, I think. As long as you guys think I'm not crazy to say that. 7.8 M. For the same salary cap implications as Kenneth Murray Jr. Wild to contextualize it that way. Let's say it like that. There we go. All right, man. Hour 45 into this thing. I need to get up out of here. I need to get me some sleep. Oh, I see you, West Texas. What you talking about over here? Hey, bro, I'm getting a big Airbnb for training camp. You're more than welcome to come and bring the family. West Coast will be there too. Oh, that's crazy. I appreciate you offering that, man. So, okay, let me just say this. I'm planning to be on site once again this year in Oxnard, and obviously stay longer than just 2 days like I did last year. It was all I could really get away for, with wife being as pregnant as she was, and 2 kids here already, 2 small kids here. I didn't want to stress the family dynamic more than I needed to, and that she would have held it down for me. She always does, but it's just the subconscious, man. It's hard for me to work with a clear mind and a clean conscience when I know that things are like, she needs my help, right? In that situation last year. This year it'll be a little bit different, but I will say we are planning on making it sort of like a family affair. And so, and if that's the case and that we are able to pull that off, then I'll have to pass on your offer. But if things change and the family has to stay back for whatever reason, it's just me, then stay tuned on that. And I appreciate you offering, because I might be interested, because I had a similar situation last year. Like, I was going to see if anybody wanted to split a B&B somehow, some way. Yes, that's facts. That's 100% understood. I hope I meant to unpack that earlier. If I didn't do it clearly enough, then I'll just do it again real quick right now. That is the case, but it's just it's the same as, Micah Parsons getting dealt and having a lucrative 4-year extension with the most difficult agent to deal with just within 24 hours. Like, it's just done all of a sudden, out of nowhere, right? That deal had clearly been in the works for quite some time. Same thing with Eric DaCosta and the situation with Max Crosby and Trey Hendrickson. The same day that we find out, they're pulling the plug on Max and rescinding their offer by fabricating medical records, or an injury of sorts, or just being dishonest with what they knew prior to those findings. All of a sudden, within hours, the reports come out of the terms for the agreement between the Ravens and Trey Hendrickson. It's just like, come on, guys, you're not fooling anybody here. Same. It's the same exact stuff. So you make that deal in this case for Jordyn Brooks with the understanding of, with the tampering of behind the scenes handshake below the, under the table agreement with he and his agent, right? 2 to 3 years, whatever it takes. He's still in the prime of his career, still 29 years old. He, when the Cowboys need him to contribute, then really the next 2 to 3 years, he's not going to be 32 years old yet. That's enough for me. I'm in, whatever it takes. right? In a world where void years are a thing and money isn't a problem, figure it out. If the compensation is the biggest hurdle, or sorry, I always say this: if the perceived price tag from just a strictly like a cash base salary and salary cap implications, if that money, if that is the biggest perceived obstacle, then there is no obstacle. Cap hell doesn't exist. There's always a way. We can make it work. We've detailed how that is. It's happening more and more frequently now. Players like Jordyn Brooks, for instance, even have 3 voided years added on top. The Cowboys just added I think there's a total of 6 void years now on Rashawn Gary's contract. That's part of, he completely reworked his deal. It's different than a restructure, but still they reworked it and then they could potentially restructure it. They did the same thing with Kenny Clark. They could restructure it even further, right? There's a discrepancy between restructuring what you call it? I'm getting tired over here. So I don't want to say this. There's a discrepancy between converting, like you can restructure different portions of the contract. So Kenny Clark, for instance, they turned a portion of his $8.8 million base salary into a signing bonus, right? So they restructured the signing bonus per se. They could do the same thing. They can turn some of his roster bonus into a restructure as well, and then add some void years onto the end of that. And then all of a sudden you have more cap space. They could add another $5 million to this thing pretty easily. And of course, we know a George Pickens extension is going to create quite a bit of flexibility financially. Same thing with Quinnen. So on and so on. What's up, Seabass? Better late than never, my brother. I'm about to get up out of here, though. I need to sign off right now. Thank you guys so much for being here. Let me know whatever questions that you have in the comments section. I'll try to get to as many of those as I possibly can. Members are guaranteed to have their question answered and get added into the membership-only chat that's happening around the clock on the Discord. The conversation is picking up and it's getting more and more fun by the day. Love the community that we're building. Help me get to 10K prior to draft day. That's the goal right now. I'm pretty sure that we can do that, especially just as long as we continue doing our part here. I just need you guys to do your part. Hit the like button for me, assuming that you're already subscribed, and we'll be set. All right. Once again, thank you to the official partner of the Lando Show. You'll see it at the top of your screen right now. Waggle, getyourwaggleon.com for the best hats in the game. Let me just show y'all the site real quick before I sign off. 3 years and counting working with them right now. Used to be specific to my golf business that I have recently liquidated my share of. So I'm no longer delving into that. Once again, further exemplifies how all in I am on this stuff here. Well, it says the site can't be reached right now. That's interesting. They don't want me to. They don't want us to win over here, I guess. Trying to play me. There we go. Look at this, man. This hurt every time I come to this site. It hurts my bank. My bank account just hurts. I'm not gonna say much. Y'all just tell me. Part of their latest collection. Right here, that top row right there. They are a golf apparel manufacturer, but like I said, they got something for everybody. They have a little bit of everything for everyone. They've got they call it the professional comfort polos, which is not really specific to golf, but they got all that type of stuff. But I just want to show you all the hats for the sake of the argument here. And most of their stuff corresponds with another piece, like quarter zip, polo, hoodie, rain gear, all that type of stuff. They got it going on, man. Literally something for everybody. Like if you don't like golf, maybe you like bears, or maybe you like hot dogs or ducks. Maybe you like birds, pigs, deer, this azalea hat from the Masters collection last year was sick. Still one of my favorites right there. All kinds, man. The show just goes on and on and on. Great stuff. But 10% off code Lando Show. GetYourWagon.com directly supports me. It upgrades your wardrobe a little bit, and then it also helps take care of a really amazing, unique company like Waggle that's also taking care of me. So it's everybody wins, man. And once again, it's much appreciated. All right, guys. Remember, prayer changes things, and the war is already won. I'll talk to you soon. Sooner than you think.